here. Okay, so Jim and I are going to be presenting on the Icom IC-7300. Here's our example, and
Powered out.
they powered out. Okay. So it's got a nice color screen. We recently purchased these basically with Amazon funds that we've collected, or the equivalent of it. But what we're doing as well is, if you're interested, we're selling the radios that they are replacing, the Kenwood and the Icom over here. These support some things that those radios didn't. They've got newer technology. The 7300 is a full software-defined radio. And everything now with both of these is touchscreen. So it does make it a lot easier for somebody who's brand new to radio to step up and actually be functional with it. So this is a nice, pretty color picture of 7300. The screen, the touch screen, it will vary depending on what you have enabled. Like the 7100, I can go ahead and put up the meters. I can go ahead and go in here and do meters, and I've got all of my meters right there. Plus I've still got a band scope right above it. You can do a full waterfall where you'll have the band scope at the top and then the waterfall underneath it, and I've got some slides that show that coming up. You can do with this is the audio scope. It shows the audio in time and frequency domains. You can actually show SWR. You can use a radio almost like an antenna analyzer and set a frequency range and have it step through and measure the SWR of an antenna. So it's pretty slick. So I'm going to go through some of the things. So front panel, power is at the top. Transmit, which is like on other radios, I think like Mox, that basically turns the transmitter on. The tuner button, we have MFJ 993B fully automatic tuners for both of these radios. So with the 7300, and I guess it's close to the 7100, the tuners come on when the radios power up, and if I want to tune up, I just go ahead and press the tuner button for about a half a second, and it automatically tunes for you. The Vox break-in enables Vox or break-in on it. Headphone jack is a standard 1/8 inch headphone jack. You can plug stereo headphones in and it works just fine. The microphone jack, it's a 8-pin Foster plug. Down here, the center one is AF gain, or your volume, and the outer ring is RF gain. The front panel, they have some menu buttons down at the bottom. In this case, the menu button 10 actually takes you to the menu. So if I press it, I get a menu. Now, depending on which mode you're in, you'll get a different menu. If I'm in sideman and I press menu, I'll have the option for the voice keyer. If I'm in CW and I press menu, I'll have the option for the CW keyer. It's kind of neat. Same thing with RTTY. It'll have the option to pull up the decoder. Function, it will, if I push that up, that will bring up push buttons that basically replicate a lot of the buttons that are on the front panel. M-scope, which is mini scope, that will basically enable or disable the mini scope. The quick key is basically a little sub-menu. It's kind of disappointing they don't let you customize it, but you can go ahead and press it and they'll have some little sub-menu items that'll pop up. And then exit will back you out of section. Continuing over to the other side, there's an auto tune key in CW. If you think you're close to a signal, you can go ahead and press auto tune, and it will go above and then back below and put you basically zero beat you onto the signal. The speech lock key, if you press it for lock, it will basically lock out key presses on the front panel. If you do it with speech, or if you press it for speech, it will actually, let me start. To lock it, you have to press and hold. If you just press it briefly, it will read out the frequency in the mode. A voice will speak it out. So let's see if we exit out of here.
14.191 megahertz USB.
For anybody who wants their radio talking to them. 17, the friction adjuster. It basically adds a little friction to the VFO dial to keep you from over-tuning. I don't know if anybody remembers the, I can't remember what they were called, but Marantz stereos in the early 70s had them, and you could basically flick like that and it would tune all the way across the FM band. I've seen HF radios that'll have that, but the optical encoder will just zip right through. That'll give it a little more friction. And then the memory channel up and down. I can't remember how many memory channels it'll let you store, but that'll let you go up and down with them. Above that, they've got a memo pad where you can go ahead and quickly store memory values, but not set them into memory. The VFO memory key lets you switch between memory locations and using the VFO to tune. The clear key will clear that out. AB will let you switch between VFO and A and VFO B. The Delta TX, it's basically transmit incremental tuning, which means you can go in and tweak the transmit the carrier point for the transmit a little bit, by a hertz or two. RIT, which is receive incremental tuning, same thing except for the receive side. Split key will let you go ahead and set up to operate split, and Jim's got a good slide for that. The multifunction control, it's kind of the basically the control panel of the machine, where you can get to a lot of the settings that change depending on mode and frequency and what have you. Let's see, the transmit frequency check key. It's for checking your transmission while you're operating split, I believe. And then the transmit receive indicator will change color depending on whether or not you're transmitting or receiving. It's like, it's green right now, it'll turn red when you're transmitting. Top center, the noise reduction key is right there. Noise blanker is on the other side of it. If you hold these down, you'll get menus that pop up. It's similar to going in a Windows environment and right-clicking and suddenly getting extra menu options for it. The notch key will turn on auto notch or enable manual notch. And then the power amp preamp attenuator key. If you hold that down, it will turn the attenuator on, which is useful for 160 and 80 meters. You probably don't want to have the attenuator, for 40 and up. And then the preamp is usually good for 20 meters and up if you need an extra boost to your signal. On the back, the power connector, ground, and then the antenna input. Unfortunately, as a cost-cutting measure, They only have a single antenna input on the 7300, but if you're willing to pay twice as much plus some, you can get a 7610 and it's got two. Plus receive antennas and everything else. On the bottom right on the back, they've got a 13-pin accessory socket. They've got all sorts of things that you can use coming through there. A USB type B port, which is basically you take a standard USB printer cable and plug the little square piece would go in the back of the radio. That's all you need. Like the 7100, you have rig control and audio all through that single connection. 6 is the CIV port. Actually, you have a menu option to go ahead and either link those two together or separate them. And if you separate them, you can actually have two connections. You can have the standard USB, and then you can get a USB CIV cable and plug that in. And that comes in handy if you want to go ahead and work true frequency shift keying RTTY or other digital modes. And then they've got a jack for an external speaker. On the top right, they've got a jack for your key or paddle, a SYN control and ALC for an external amplifier or linear. The tuning control socket 11. It's a slightly different than a standard Molex plug that you see for hard drives in computers, but that will interface with a tuner. And in fact, the cable coming off of the 7300 actually has power enough to power the tuner, plus it can send a signal to the tuner to tell it, hey, go ahead and tune. And 12 is the cooling fan. So this is what the touch display looks like. I'm not going to go through all the little things, but it's got a lot of things that can light up. And I don't have screenshots, but like the 7100, it does the RTTY decode. It's got pre-canned messages where it'll send it out for you. It has voice messaging where you can go ahead and record your voice, so you can go ahead and record yourself calling CQ and actually set the repeat time and just press the button and sit back and wait for somebody to answer you. So some common tasks that you would normally do, change the band. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here. So if I want to change the band, you go ahead and you hold the megahertz section, and you'll get a selection to come up, and you can go 160 meters through 6 meters, as well as a keypad will come up and let you just type in a frequency. They actually listen to shortwave pretty well. Change the mode, same thing. You go ahead and you press the mode, and you have a choice of modes at the bottom. The display mode, you can go in the menu and select audio scope, band scope, SWR, meters. To take a screenshot, and I've got some screenshots coming up. You've got it set up where you just hit the power button briefly, and if we had a memory card in there, it would go ahead and save a screenshot to the memory card. Let's see, audio scope. I think we've got that in there right now. The meters, we can go ahead and Same thing, 6 different meters all at once. You have the ability to record a full QSO, which is handy if you work contests and you're going to be a top finisher. Most of them now want a full recording of the whole time that you operated. Voice transmit, you have to be in sideband to get to that. But I can go down here and I've got 8 different slots where you can record yourself and then send it out. So for field day, it'd be real good to have your responses pre-recorded, save your voice a little bit. Tuning antenna, the tune button's down here. You just hold it for a half a second, and then you'll hear the relays click in the tuner. Preamp or attenuator, you just press the button, hold it down for the attenuator, and it'll click through. It's got 2 levels of preamp, so it'll be off, preamp 1, and then preamp 2, and then it cycles back to off. The filter settings. They've got 3 filters, filter 1, filter 2, and filter 3. If you hold down, it will bring up the filter menu and you can completely customize it. You can narrow it down to, I'm not sure how far down it'll go.
0.
To 0? I know you can open it up as far as 3.6 kilohertz. So that's pretty handy. Jim is going to show the setup for CW. The auto tune, we don't have an antenna attached, so we really can't show that. Jim's going to show you working split. Speech we kind of did there. The SWR graph. If I go here, I can go ahead and set 2 frequencies. And what you would do is choose how many spots you want to hit in between it, and then you key up the microphone multiple times, and it chick, 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 chick works its way across. And we'll plot out a SWR graph for you. And I'm not sure if you can see this. Let me go ahead and go back to meter. But if I hold down the noise reduction, I'll get a little menu over here that you can go ahead and adjust it. Same thing for noise. Actually, that's noise reduction. I think the previous one was noise blanker. This is a multi button. It brings up a little menu. Your gain, compression for your audio, your power settings, and that will change depending on which mode you're in. If you're doing CW, it'll let you adjust the keyer, and I'm going to let Jim show you that. And speaking of Jim,
Okay, here we go. Here we go for CW. 5-10 minutes. Won't take very long. Won't be very painful. Next slide. This is a setup that the transceiver is already in single side in sideband, lower sideband, as it should be at this frequency on 40 meters, and it's showing the filters too. And you got a few stations hanging around here. So I want to change it. If you're coming in and you want to work CW, you come in and you would press that button right there. Next slide. And it would bring up this menu, and I would see, oh, there's CW. That's what I want to do. So I just press CW. Next slide. And there I am. There I am on 40 meters in the CW band. So looking at it, I can see that I have filter 2 in. And I only have one frequency listed here. It says VFO-A. You can go VFO-B, and you go into split for contests and DX. And I'll show you a little bit of that. It's already set for fast break-in. And this is RF RF gain has to do with the knob.
Jim, would you explain what fast break-in is? For
No, but Chuck will explain that. No, it's a time delay when you let up on a key. Does the receiver kick in right away, or is there a delay after your last syllable? You can have a slight delay.
In fast break-in, you can hear the other station in between hits and dies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, between the. So if somebody's trying to break in while you're sending, you can hear them. The other guy will go da 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 da. You know, somebody's trying to break in. So we usually use fast break-in because you know what's going on all around you at the same time. Okay, so now I would probably want to, since I'm on CW, and I want to make sure I have the right filter. Next slide, please. So if I press the filter button, what happened was with this slide, it also pressed this knob at the same time, and it overlaid that a little bit. But so this is the filter that I have going now, and it's set for a bandwidth of 500. That's a little wide. I like 400, 300 for CW. Some people like 50. So what you do is you press this right here, and you turn the main knob right here, and it'll take you anywhere you want to go from 0 on up. So it's really pretty cool. So you want to know how much power you're running. So you would turn this knob up and down to change the power. Then you touch where it says key speed, and you do the same thing. We want to do 18 words a minute, 20 words a minute, whatever. And then CW pitch is usually 600, 700, something like that. John, would you like me to do that now? No, you do this knob. Yeah, and I don't think so. No, it doesn't. No. Oh, I see what you're saying. No, you can't do it. No.
It won't control the level, but it'll let you if you hit touch key speed, then you can adjust that.
They're all adjustable from the multi-knob. I would say too that, just as a plug for CW, it's scary. It's a learning curve, but you can do CW at any level. I'm sort of a turtle, and Chuck is sort of a rabbit. He's real fast, and I'm slow. And they have straight key nights where you can go do 5 words a minute. It doesn't matter if you like doing it, just do it. So now I'm set up on CW. I'm in the right band. I got the right power. I got the right speed. I got the right pitch, and I almost have the right filter, but not on this slide. So I'm just about ready to go. Next slide, please. So I got usually we keep the AGC at about mid, and like I said, you make sure the break-in is at fast break-in, and I already knew that by looking at the screen when I first started, so I was okay with those. Next slide. So here I am ready to go, and then suddenly I'm seeing something up here. It's called split. Well, what we do on CW is we transmit a little bit higher than the DX station or the contest station is transmitting, because if everybody tried to call the station that you're trying to get, you would just smother him over. So you transmit above his where he's transmitting, and he listens above his frequency where he transmits. And this is traditionally known as a pileup. It's usually 2-3 kilohertz above the contest signals, the contest transmitter is transmitting. So to go to split, what you do is you press split, and what that does is freezes your transmit frequency when you press this XFC, and then you turn the dial, and you get it two units above this, and then you just let it go, and it shifts your transmitter to transmit on this frequency, and you still receive on this frequency. So you'll be hearing him calling CQ or saying QRZ, QRZ on this frequency. But you'll answer him over here. And then what happens is people that don't know about split, they hear that station calling on that frequency, and they start calling them, and that messes up everything. So there are people that watch those frequencies, and they'll say up, da-da-da, da-da-da, da, up. Keep telling people over and over to transmit up. So that would get you into split. Next slide. So if you want to do a little CW or a lot of CW or whatever, you got weapons of choice here. This is a large straight key, but usually I just happen to have that one. So you could just practice with a straight key and go 5, 10 words a minute, 13 words a minute, whatever, and just have fun doing that. This is a bug. This is the earlier, faster thing. It's spring-loaded on the dits, and on the DAWs it's mechanical. You have to press it. I got this in 1954. I think that's my bug. And then these are paddles, dual paddle and single paddle. I kind of favor the single paddle. I just am more comfortable using a single paddle. Next slide. So you can forget about all those tools if you want to, and this has a built-in memory as well. And you can, what you do is you put whatever you want to send into these, where is it? Into this, like if you want to send CQ test, you just press that. CQ test, CQ test.
What does CQ test mean?
Well, they use CQ test sometimes in contests. They use that.
I was thinking when I first
Or
got my radio and I had that on.
yeah,
I was thinking that means I'm
testing.
my radio.
They say no. They say it's
So I think it means contest, doesn't it?
Yeah, but usually you name the letters of the contest. Yeah. See, and then you'd give if you want to give a signal report to your whoever you're talking to, say you're 599, you just press M2. So you don't have to do any of this. You don't have to do any of this. You can work it all off the front of the transceiver, which is pretty cool. I'm sorry?
How you work one M1MM?
Well, it's not. Well, you can use N1MM, yeah, but you use your F. I got it coming, Ray. I know what you're asking me. Next slide, please. So if you're working with N1MM, you can do the same thing off your keyboard with the F keys, the function keys. So if I want to send a CQ, and I don't want to use paddles or a bug, or I don't want to use the menu on my radio, I just go right off my keyboard. So I can say CQ, 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 and if the exchange, which is this by abbreviation, for whatever contest you're in, like you would say Louisiana Jim. So I'd hit that and it would go da-da, 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 da-da. That's LA Jim. So I don't have to do anything. I mean, it's just point at it. And you do have to copy the other guy's call sign and type it into N1MN. And he may be going 20 words a minute or 30 words a minute, but you can also see it on the screen, on your screen, because on the N1MM it'll give you a band map, and you can see the call sign printed. And if you just know a little bit about the code, you can figure out which one belongs to who, and then you just click on it, and you're on his frequency, and you know that that's him, and then you just mechanically do it. Now Bryant got to be an expert. That 11-year-old, he didn't even know much about the code, but he would see a call sign on the band map, and he would see it was a 9 and a W, and he would look over and he'd find, oh, here's a W9 WWX or something, and then he'd call him, and he'd hoped it was the right guy. But by the way, after a year, he was copying at 35 words a minute. Does that make you feel bad about yourself? No. You got to be very mature sometimes, you know. So yeah, so we all I would say, Chuck, everybody uses the keyboard for contests.
The CW is sent is in a contest anyway.
Yeah.
It's from the keyboard. Occasionally you'll use the paddle.
Yeah, you have to, if you make
want it like you run across a friend, you want to say hi to
Yeah.
or whatever, you probably use the paddle because that's not programmed in the
So
computer.
if you miss something, you want to say question mark, and you might want to go, did it, did it, you know, you just want to do that real fast rather than do it up there. And then if he says, I missed your exchange number, so you can click it on there, or over here you can repeat it here. And then if you mess the whole thing up and he doesn't answer you, and you've already typed in his call sign in the N1MM, you just wipe it, take it out, and start over. And there's no rush. I mean, unless you're like Chuck, you do so many cues in a minute. But I just kind of like lumber through it. You know, I make sure I got the right call sign, and then sometimes I'll really be lazy. I'll turn up QRZ and see what the guy's station looks like and where he lives, and I kind of like that kind of stuff. All right, next slide. So this was a contest a week or so ago. So this is what you're going to see on your screen. So all of these people are trying to talk to somebody. So the nice thing about this transceiver is that if I want to, maybe I can get up here. Well, I can do it with this. Let's say, I wish I had I don't have a band map, but each one of these signals could be on a band map, and it would give you the name of the call, give you the call sign. And if I want to, let's say I want to call this guy here, I don't have to turn the knob. All I have to do is put my finger on the screen, and it forms a box, and I put my finger a second time, and I'm right on his frequency. And if I want to go all the way up to the other end, and I saw something on the band map that was a special call sign I want to talk to, put my finger on it, put my finger on it again, and I don't have to turn the knob. And if it's a little bit off frequency, this thing that it centers the signal to about 700 hertz, so that you'll be receiving it at the same audio tone that you're transmitting at. That's a little trick. You get an ear for what your signal sounds like, and usually you try to tune the other CW signal to that same tone that you get used to. Jim is a great CW operator. Can you add something, or?
No,
It's fun. It's fun.
Oh, it's a blast.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were talking about the up. We call them the up police.
Oh.
That's
That's true.
About the DX station.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, was that my call he was just saying?
I know.
Oh, you just wiped the guy.
I know.
The DX
It's
station.
embarrassing when
I'm always confused when they say like up 10. Up 10 where? Instead of, you'd be like 35 to 45?
it'd be 45. It'd be 45.
NBC.
Yeah. They'll go up 5, up 10, but I don't know if it's 0, 0, if I do 0, 5.
Kilohertz.
Right here.
Okay.
Right there.
I did. I tried both.
Yeah.
I tuned it here, and then I knew
And that's
was
fine.
7040.
Yeah.
Question, does this unit decode the signal?
No, it does not.
Doesn't decode CW.
Doesn't decode CW. And you know, a lot of people say, this is your decoder. You know, you decode it in your head. And the training is more and more turning to learning the code, of course. But then, you know, we all type it or you write it. But it's getting more and more to be a cerebral thing. You try to hear it and feel it, and you try to hear the first 2 or 3 letters and figure out what the word is. And I'm a terrible typer. And so, you know, I'll be typing and then suddenly I'll be hitting keys all over the place. So writing sometimes is better. You can write because we can all write better than we can type. So yeah, so those are all little gimmicks that you can use. And the other thing is you can practice at home. There's a Just Learn Morse Code. I do that almost every day. I don't get any better, but I think I hear better. So I think it's a good anti-aging thing. Morse code is a good anti-aging thing. It's like crossword puzzles, and it improves your focus and your alertness. And so I'm an advocate. I don't do it as much as I would like to.